Hi there. My name's Dave Bradley, and I'm here to talk to you about my career in media and publishing. My plan is to offer you 3 tips for finding a career in the specialist press. By specialist press, I mean publications dedicated to a niche topic rather than general news or current affairs. If you're a passionate person about a subject and want to share that world with other people, the specialist media is a wonderful career choice. Since 1997, I've worked across magazines, websites, and events, primarily in the entertainment sector, video games, films, TV, books, comics, and so on. I've been a writer, journalist, editor, editor in chief, publisher, freelance consultant, marketing copywriter, stage host, and more. My first job in this business was as a staff writer on PC Format magazine. That magazine is no longer with us, but I covered the home computing market while I was there. I also ran the biggest science fiction magazine in the world for 10 years. But in between, I've produced magazines and websites for Microsoft, and I've contributed copy to the likes of Amazon and Apple. And I'm now the chief operating officer of Steel Media. And when I have time, I also write freelance articles for other publications, and I produce marketing copy for other outlets. And I run a small content agency called Electric Box Media. At Steel Media, I oversee the Pocket Gamer brand, which includes websites about the mobile games industry, and also a trade conference called Pocket Gamer Connects, where up to 3,000 professionals who work in the games industry meet to share knowledge and do business. They take place all around the world. The biggest takes place in London, but we've run Pocket Gamer Connects conferences in San Francisco, in Seattle, in Bangalore, in Hong Kong, in Amman, in Jordan. Helsinki is always a big one, and so it's a truly global business. In 2020, the conferences have taken place online. The COVID crisis has meant that we've had to hold our trade shows and conferences over the internet, but so far they've worked really well, and we've had something in excess of 1,200 people at our most recent conference, which ran over Zoom. I love working in the video games business. It's a great business to be covering in the media. The video games business is worth about $150 billion globally and is an employer of many thousands of people in Britain. For the last 4 years, my focus has been on covering that sector again after I spent some time working in TV and film. For me, a career in the specialist press is a chance to be part of the conversation around the topics that you love. It's a chance to be creative. It's a chance to work in a team, but also sometimes alone. It's great for people who like variety. It's a great place to be creative, either by yourself as a writer or in a team, making things come together. It's a job where one person can make a difference. If you are a creative editor, you can see your vision come together, and one person's ability to write can change the nature of a whole article. So it's a great place to have an impact. So what do you need? Well, you need superb communication skills, written and verbal. My studies in English at Oxford certainly helped with the with that side of things. You have to be great at teamwork, at collaboration. It's probably handy if you like travel as well. I've certainly had my fair share of that. The job has taken me all over the world, from Colombia to Asia, and the opportunities to visit cities and businesses that I wouldn't have had otherwise. But I missed out an important part. How did I get here? Let's start at the beginning. I'm a graduate of Pembroke College. I matriculated in 1991. I studied English language and literature. I met my wife at Pembroke, actually, Deborah Jones, who also works in magazine publishing now. She runs leading craft publications like Simply Knitting. You've probably seen them on your local newsstand. After some further studies in London and a little European travel, I began applying for jobs on magazines. Not just ones which I saw advertised in The Guardian, which at the time was the top place for media jobs. These days, you'll find a lot of jobs advertised online. But as well as applying for jobs that I saw in the Media Guardian, I also contacted companies directly. I knew which magazines and which industry sectors I liked, and I wrote to editors and journalists in that world and asked them to take a look at my portfolio and asked them if they had jobs going. And I urge you to do that as well. There are places where jobs are advertised, and I'll come to those later. But I do urge you to reach out and contact publications. Publications are always looking for new contributors. And if something isn't available right now, maybe there'll be something down the line. But getting to know the people who work in that sector is very valuable. And you never know what will turn up if you just contact them directly. I sent a letter to Future Publishing. And they answered me. They were on a recruitment drive at the time. I had seen some jobs in the Media Guardian, but actually, there was a particular couple of magazines that I wanted to work for. I would have loved to work for. I was a fan of them, and so I wrote to the editors there. And I was lucky. My letter coincided with the editors looking for new talent, and they invited me to go and meet them in Bath for an impromptu interview. I leapt on a train to Bath, hit it off with the editor, uh, and never left. Really. I was very lucky. The stars aligned. I am well aware that it was a boom time for magazines in the 90s, and I was in the right place at the right time. But even today, there are great opportunities, and in fact, in some respects, it's even easier to be published now because of online opportunities which weren't available in the mid 90s. On day one of my job working for magazines, my job was writing copy for the game review pages. As a young gamer, that was it felt like a dream come true. Although I did get to play a lot of games that I didn't like, which is always the downside of being a reviewer. But I also wrote instructions for the use of the free disc which came with the magazine, and I wrote the occasional feature, and I interviewed some people, and it was good to just try my hand at all sorts of different types of journalism in the home computing sector. I quickly discovered that I was good at organising other writers. I was organised. I love being part of the industry. I love networking and schmoozing, you might say. And I had ideas for the magazine that I knew I wasn't the best person to create, but I could figure out how they should work and who should create them. So actually, with a fairly short space of time, just several months, I was promoted to section editor and was able to exercise creative control over a part of the magazine. Within 2 years, I was given my own magazine to edit at Future Publishing. Being an editor is being a team manager as much as it is a creative role. You still get to write from time to time, but there are few things that are as collaborative as making a magazine or, I suppose, a newspaper. And you have to be at the heart of that if you're an editor. You have to know what you want and be able to communicate that vision, but also listen to other voices. You are probably a bit of a jack of all trades, whereas other people are experts, and you have to recognize expertise. As time passed, I moved from one magazine to another, running such titles as the official Microsoft Windows magazine for a while. There you go. Also, a magazine called SFX, which was a market-leading science fiction and fantasy magazine covering the film and TV, as well as books and comics industries. I even got to launch a few magazines and websites, including Crime Scene, Comic Heroes, recently PC Games Insider, BlockchainGamer.biz, and others. Something to bear in mind, which I discovered on my journey: magazine editors on even relatively big brands do not get paid a fortune. It's more done for the love of it than it is for the personal gain. But I have got to do some very cool things. I met some of my heroes of page and screen. I've interviewed the likes of Robert Downey Jr. and Scarlett Johansson, TV actor Nathan Fillion, William Shatner, and some people from classic stage, screen, and film. So what's the recruitment process like? It varies from company to company. Like I said, it's a competitive industry, so you may find that it can be quite laborious to apply for a job. During my time at Future Publishing, when I was recruiting junior staff members for SFX magazine and Total Film magazine, we would advertise in places, in still some newspapers, but actually more likely online on the company's own website, but also places like Indeed.co.uk and Monster. But once people had applied, we would there'd be phone interviews first of all. Then we whittle the applicants down to an interview process, and then there'd be a recruitment day. And the best process I've ever been part of for recruiting, which was also, I imagine, quite intimidating for people just starting out, was to invite the finalists, the kind of shortlisted applicants, to a day of tests, of review writing that they had to do to a deadline right there on the day, of interacting with the other participants and working on collaborative projects together, because that's a fair test of what it's like to work on a magazine. We don't always have the resources to do that on every publication. In fact, right now, more than likely, when we're recruiting somebody at Steel Media, the process is, once we've seen people's CV and their portfolio of work, probably involves a couple of phone interviews, maybe a written test. Although my career path was through being a junior writer and then a section editor, then a deputy, then a full-time editor, and then an editor-in-chief, there are many other jobs in the specialist press and in the media generally. Page layout and design art editors. these are all essential roles. Web designers too. They tend to have qualifications in graphic design, though. That's the norm. Not necessarily. People can be self-taught. But they do tend to have studied graphic design. But there are other roles too, sub-editors and production editors. Very similar discipline to journalism, and certainly an editing skill. More of an unsung role, really, involved in the process of getting the words onto the page, fact-checking and proofreading them. It's a good way in, and I think essential, but increasingly online writers are subbing their own copy, and this role is somewhat in decline since the days when I started out. But sub editors and production editors do often go on to become editors. Other roles in the industry include photographers, video presenters for online work. Don't forget marketing and PR, advertising, sales. All of these roles exist in the media and are career paths. If you're studying English, history, or other humanities, if you're not sure what paths are open to you, there are many. Actually, you don't have to be a journalist or editor to thrive in the press. Okay, I promised 3 tips about how to get into the industry. There's lots I could advise you on, but time is short, and hopefully these 3 tips will be the most important things you can do. Firstly, I would say build a portfolio. That would be my first tip. Start now. University publications, the local newspaper. Remember, the barriers to entry in journalism are actually very low. Unlike being a surgeon, say, where you need a qualification, you need to be able to prove that you can do it before someone lets you hold a scalpel. Anyone can write. If you want to be a writer, just write. Nothing is stopping you. Start your own blog. Start your own YouTube channel. You can write for your friends' blogs for free. You can write for student publications if they need copy. Your local newspaper might need reviews writing. It might need local reporting done. It might even pay you. But certainly there is absolutely nothing stopping you writing. And I would say, even if you're writing for nobody but yourself, if you want to be a journalist and you're going to be applying for even the most junior journalism roles, you might as well have a stack of content that you can show. You will probably be asked to show samples of your writing. Possibly, if you're applying for a specific job, you'll be set a specific test, commissioned to write a particular thing. But have a portfolio ready. Have something you can share. Have something online. And it's easy to create that content. If you like the idea of, let's say, being a music journalist and writing reviews of gigs, do that. Do that today. Go to one tonight and write a review, post it on your blog. And then if someone asks you, are you a writer? You can point them at your blog, even if it's only had you and your family looking at it so far. This is great practice, and also it's a calling card. Tip 2, work experience. It helps to have some work experience. I wrote for a local paper for a few weeks for free. One summer, I did some work shadowing at the Richmond and Twickenham Times in West London. It was incredibly valuable. It taught me that actually I didn't really want to work for local newspapers. No offense to them. I realized that actually the topics in question weren't for me. I was much more interested in diving deep into the kind of hobby areas that I liked, and that meant going the kind of way of niche publications like film magazines. But it was great experience of seeing how a team works on a newspaper. And you can do that. There are internships, there are free work shadowing opportunities. Get in touch with your local paper, get in touch with the magazine that you love, and ask to be considered. The bigger magazines, let's say Total Film and Empire, the big music magazines will be inundated with people asking if they can contribute. So be prepared that there may be an application process, including interviews for even short-term work placements. But do go for it. Having some work experience is incredibly useful. It will tell you what it is that you're good at. It will show you what it is that you enjoy doing, and it will be things that you could put on your CV. Tip 3. I would suggest that, as well as looking for jobs in places like Indeed.co.uk, Monster, on LinkedIn, on the websites of the magazines that you like as well, that my tip would be approach magazines and websites and channels directly. Now, some of the bigger organizations like the BBC, they have a very formal application process, but I'm specifically talking here about the specialist press, about the niche media, about the entertainment media. Now, with those, my own experience mirrors this, as I said earlier on. I would recommend getting in touch with people in the industry that you want to meet. Get in touch with the editors of magazines that you read. Get in touch with people who create the games that you love. Get in touch with people who are making short films in your area, if that's what you want to get involved with. Reach out. For a start, if you want to be a journalist and an editor, you have to be good at contacting people. You have to have a contact book eventually. You will have to, professionally, when you're doing the job, you will have to be good at making first contact and approaching people and asking for a connection. And so practicing that as part of your application process, as part of your job seeking process is good. But also that's how I find my job. That's how I now find people that are passionate about the subjects that I publish. People get in touch speculatively with Pocket Gamer and the other sites and events that I run and ask if we have jobs going. Often we don't, but I genuinely keep those people on file, and I know that other publications do. If you're not even seeking full-time work, but you're looking for freelance work, remember, you can just contact and pitch to the editor of a magazine or website. They are very used to it. That's what they do. That's how professional freelance writers reach out. So drop a line to the editor of a magazine that you love and ask if they have any work going, freelance work or full-time work. Send them your CV, send them samples, as I've said before, send them examples of your writing. They'll take a look. They might not have anything for you. You might coincide with them being on a recruitment drive, but if not, they'll probably keep your CV on file, and you can always get back to them again in a few months and see if anything's come up. But getting in touch with people directly, that'll be my third tip. It's very good practice, and pitching directly can often lead to great avenues. I've had now almost 25 years of creative, collaborative, international work where I've continued to learn every day. Studying English at Oxford set me up well for that. It helped that I was passionate about a subject and that I was lucky with the opportunity to explore that subject and combine it with my what I hope are my written skills, and then latterly my team management skills. And if that all sounds good to you, then the media may well be for you. I'm very happy for you to contact me if you'd like. My email address is dmbradley@gmail.com. I'll put that on the screen as well. And you're welcome to drop me a line. You can also find me on Twitter as BoxDaveB. So do look me up there. But anyway, good luck with your chosen career, and good luck with the end of your time at Pembroke.